22. The remarkable rise of King Zhuang of Chu. After the state of Qin defeated the state of Jin, the two nations remained at peace for over a decade. However, the southern state of Chu was growing stronger by the day and was eager to challenge Jin for dominance over the central plains. In 613 BCE, King Zhuang of Chu, the grandson of King Cheng of Chu, ascended to the throne. Seeing this as an opportunity, Jin managed to sway several states that had previously been aligned with Chu and formed new alliances. This angered the ministers of Chu, who urged King Zhuang to take military action to reclaim their influence. However, King Zhuang ignored their advice. Instead, he spent his days hunting, drinking, and indulging in music, showing no interest in state affairs. For 3 years, he remained inactive, seemingly indifferent to his ministers' dissatisfaction. To suppress any dissent, he even issued a decree stating that anyone who dared to offer him counsel would be sentenced to death. One minister, Wu Ju, could no longer tolerate this situation and resolved to confront the king. At that time, King Zhuang was still reveling in pleasure. When he heard that Wu Ju had requested an audience, he summoned him and asked, "Why have you come?" Wu Ju replied, "Someone has posed a riddle to me, but I cannot solve it. You are a wise ruler, perhaps you can guess the answer." Intrigued, King Zhuang chuckled and said, "Tell me the riddle." Wu Ju said, "There is a great bird perched on a mountain in Chu. It has brilliant plumage and looks majestic. However, it has remained still for 3 years, neither flying nor singing. What kind of bird is this?" King Zhuang immediately understood the true meaning behind Wu Ju's words. He replied, "This is no ordinary bird. When it does not fly, it remains still, but when it does, it soars into the heavens. When it does not sing, it stays silent, but when it does, its song astounds the world. You may leave now, I understand your message." Some time later, another minister, Su Tsong, noticed that King Zhuang had yet to take action and decided to approach him as well. King Zhuang asked him, "Do you not know about my decree?" Su Tsong replied, "I do. But if my words can make you listen, I am willing to accept the death penalty." Pleased with his minister's loyalty, King Zhuang smiled and said, "I understand that you all genuinely care about the state. How could I not see that?" From that moment on, King Zhuang resolved to reform his government. He dismissed the flatterers in his court and promoted bold and honest officials such as Wu Ju and Su Tsong to assist him in state affairs. He also began stockpiling weapons and training his army. That very year, he subdued several southern tribes. By the 6th year of his reign, he defeated the state of Song, and by the 8th year, he conquered the Rome tribes of Luhan, in present-day northeast Song County, Henan, advancing all the way to the outskirts of the Zhou capital, Luori. To demonstrate Chu's military prowess, King Zhuang organized a grand military parade outside Luori. This terrified the nominal Zhou king, who immediately sent an envoy, Wang Sun Man, to offer words of consolation to the Chu army. During their conversation, King Zhuang inquired about the weight and size of the 9 tripod cauldrons housed in the Zhou royal palace. These cauldrons were symbolic of the Zhou dynasty's authority. By asking about them, King Zhuang was indirectly expressing his ambition to seize the throne. Wang Sun Man was an astute diplomat. He responded by advising King Zhuang that true national strength came from virtue rather than from the weight of the cauldrons. Understanding that the time was not yet ripe to overthrow the Zhou dynasty, King Zhuang ultimately led his army back to Chu. Later, King Zhuang appointed Sun Shuao, a renowned recluse from Chu, as his prime minister. Sun Shuao implemented agricultural reforms, cultivated barren lands, and dug irrigation channels to boost food production. To prevent floods and droughts, he also initiated extensive water management projects, which allowed Chu to irrigate millions of acres of farmland, leading to an increase in agricultural output. Within a few years, Chu became even more powerful, successfully suppressing internal conflicts in the states of Zheng and Chen, and ultimately clashing with the hegemonic Jin. In 597 BCE, King Zhuang led a massive army to attack the state of Zheng. The state of Jin sent troops to aid Zheng, and the two forces clashed in a decisive battle at Bai, present-day eastern Jiangsu, Henan. Jin suffered one of its most catastrophic defeats, losing half of its troops. The surviving soldiers fled to the Yellow River, but there were too few boats to accommodate them. Desperate to cross, many soldiers were pushed into the water and drowned. Others attempted to climb onto the boats, but the boatmen, fearing they would capsize, cut off the fingers of those trying to board. Some of King Zhuang's advisors urged him to pursue the fleeing Jin army and wipe them out completely. However, King Zhuang replied, "Since our defeat at Chengpu, Chu has been humiliated and unable to raise its head. Today, we have finally avenged that disgrace with a great victory. Why should we continue to kill more men unnecessarily?" With that, he ordered his troops to withdraw, allowing the remnants of the Jin army to escape. From that moment on, the once dormant King Zhuang of Chu became the dominant power in the region, earning his place among the 5 hegemons of the spring and autumn period. Alongside Duke Huan of Qi, Duke Wen of Jin, Duke Xiong of Song, and Duke Mu of Qin, King Zhuang of Chu became one of history's legendary rulers known as the 5 hegemons of the spring and autumn period. 23. Wu Zixu's escape through Zhaoguan Pass. During the struggle for hegemony among the feudal states, the larger states expanded their territories by annexing smaller ones. However, the rulers of these major states had to distribute the newly acquired land among their meritorious ministers. As these ministers gained power, conflicts arose among them, leading to intensified internal strife. Consequently, the major states sought to temporarily halt their wars for dominance. For this reason, Xiong Shu, a minister from the state of Song, acted as a mediator between the states of Jin and Chu. In 546 BCE, the states of Jin, Chu, and several others convened in Song for the Conference for Ceasing Warfare, MBNG Hui Yi. At this conference, representatives from Jin and Chu, leading the northern and southern factions respectively, negotiated a peace treaty. The agreement stipulated that, aside from the powerful states of Qi and Qin, all smaller states were required to pay tribute equally to both Jin and Chu. The 2 states would share hegemony, and for the next 50 years, no major wars occurred. However, after King Zhuang of Chu's grandson, King Ping of Chu, ascended the throne, the state of Chu began to decline. In 522 BCE, King Ping decided to depose his original crown prince, Jian. At that time, Prince Jian and his mentor, Wu Shi, were stationed at Chengfu, in present-day Shangcheng, Henan. Fearing that Wu Shi would oppose the decision, King Ping summoned him under false pretenses and accused him of treason. Wu Shi adamantly denied the accusation but was immediately imprisoned. King Ping then sent assassins to kill Prince Jian while simultaneously coercing Wu Shi into writing letters to his 2 sons, Wu Shong and Wu Zixu, luring them back to Chu so that they could be eliminated together. The elder son, Wu Shong, returned to the Chu capital, Yingju, present-day northwest Jiangling, Hubei, and was executed along with his father by King Ping. However, Prince Jian, having received a warning in advance, escaped with his son, Gongzi Xing, to the state of Song. Meanwhile, Wu Shi's younger son, Wu Zixu, also fled from Chu and eventually found Prince Jian in Song. Unfortunately, Song was soon engulfed in internal strife, forcing Wu Zixu, Prince Jian, and Gongzi Xing to flee to the state of Zheng, hoping to secure support for their revenge. However, the ruler of Zheng, Duke Ding of Zheng, refused to assist them. Desperate for vengeance, Prince Jian conspired with some Zheng ministers to overthrow Duke Ding. The plot was discovered, and Prince Jian was executed by Duke Ding. Left with no choice, Wu Zixu took Gongzi Xing and fled again, this time seeking refuge in the state of Wu, whose capital was in present-day Suzhou, Jiangsu. By this time, King Ping of Chu had issued an order for Wu Zixu's capture, placing a bounty on his head. His portrait was displayed at the gates of cities across Chu, and officials were instructed to inspect all travelers carefully. As Wu Zixu and Gongzi Xing escaped from Zheng, they traveled only at night, hiding during the day. Eventually, they arrived at Zhaoguan Pass, north of present-day Hanshan County, Anhui, on the border between Wu and Chu. The guards at the pass were conducting strict inspections. It is said that Wu Zixu was so anxious that he could not sleep for several nights, and his hair turned completely white from worry. Fortunately, a kind-hearted man named Donggao Gong sympathized with Wu Zixu and took him in. Donggao Gong had a friend who bore a resemblance to Wu Zixu. He devised a plan for his friend to impersonate Wu Zixu and attempt to pass through the checkpoint. The guards apprehended the impostor, while the real Wu Zixu, whose appearance had drastically changed due to his now white hair, went unnoticed and successfully escaped through the pass. Once he was safely past Zhaoguan, Wu Zixu feared pursuit and hurried forward. However, he soon encountered a great river blocking his path. Just as he was growing desperate, an old fisherman appeared, rowing a small boat across the river. The fisherman took pity on Wu Zixu and ferried him across to safety. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Wu Zixu removed his treasured sword and offered it to the fisherman, saying, "This sword was a gift from the King of Chu to my grandfather. It is worth 100 taels of gold. Please accept it as a token of my appreciation." The fisherman replied, "The King of Chu has placed a bounty of 50,000 shu of grain and promised a noble title to anyone who captures you. If I am not tempted by such riches and power, why would I desire your sword?" Ashamed, Wu Zixu humbly apologized, retrieved his sword, and took his leave. Upon arriving in the state of Wu, Wu Zixu found that Prince Zhuang of Wu was plotting to seize the throne. Wu Zixu aided him in assassinating King Liao of Wu and installing himself as the new ruler. This prince later became known as King Helu of Wu. After ascending the throne, King Helu appointed Wu Zixu as a high-ranking minister to assist in governing the state. He also recruited the brilliant military strategist Sun Wu, known as Sun Tzu, who would later author The Art of War. With Wu Zixu and Sun Tzu's guidance, Wu steadily built up its military strength and began annexing neighboring states. In 506 BCE, King Helu appointed Sun Tzu as his chief general, with Wu Zixu as his deputy. Leading a massive army, they launched a fierce invasion of Chu, achieving consecutive victories and utterly crushing Chu's forces. The Wu army advanced all the way to the Chu capital, Yingju. By this time, King Ping of Chu had died, and his son, King Zhao of Chu, fled in panic. Wu Zixu, who deeply resented King Ping, ordered the exhumation of the late king's tomb. He then desecrated the corpse by whipping it in revenge. Following their conquest of Yingju, a Chu nobleman named Shun Baoshu fled to the state of Qin to seek military assistance. Initially, Zhuang of Qin was reluctant to intervene. However, Shun Baoshu refused to leave the palace gates, weeping day and night for 7 days straight. Moved by his unwavering loyalty, Zhuang of Qin finally relented, saying, "Though the state of Chu has been unjust, how can I stand idly by when they have such a devoted minister?" Zhuang dispatched an army to aid Chu, successfully defeating the Wu forces and compelling King Helu to withdraw. After returning to Wu, King Helu credited Sun Tzu with the greatest achievement. However, Sun Tzu declined official positions and chose to retire to a life of seclusion. He left behind The Art of War, which remains one of the greatest military treatises in history. 24. Confucius travels across the states. With the assistance of Wu Zixu and Sun Tzu, King Helu of Wu dealt a devastating blow to the state of Chu, gaining immense power that even the major Central Plain states found threatening. The first to feel this pressure was the state of Qi. Since the death of Duke Huan of Qi, Qi had experienced prolonged political instability. However, during the reign of Duke Jing of Qi, the state regained strength under the administration of the capable minister Yang Ying. In 500 BCE, Duke Jing and Yang Ying sought to consolidate Qi's influence over its neighboring state, Lu, as well as the other Central Plain states, aiming to revive the achievements of Duke Huan. They sent an invitation to Duke Ding of Lu, proposing a diplomatic conference at Jiagu, on the border between Qi and Lu. At that time, when rulers of feudal states attended such meetings, they needed a chief minister to serve as their ceremonial assistant. Duke Ding chose Confucius, who was then serving as the Minister of Justice, Zixu, in Lu. Confucius, whose given name was Kongqiu, was a native of Zhou, present-day southeast Qufu, Shandong. His father was a low-ranking military officer, and he lost him at the age of 3. His mother moved to Qufu, where she raised him alone. It is said that as a child, Confucius had a deep fascination with rituals. He would arrange small bowls and plates, imitating the ceremonies of ancestral sacrifices. As a young man, Confucius was an avid student, greatly admiring the Duke of Zhu, who had established the ritual and musical traditions of early Zhou dynasty. He became well versed in the 6 arts: rituals, music, archery, charioteering, calligraphy, and arithmetic. Known for his diligence and integrity, he first served as a warehouse official, where he ensured that supplies were never short, and later as a livestock officer, where cattle and sheep flourished under his management. By the time he was 30, his reputation had already begun to spread. As more people sought his teachings, Confucius established a private school and began accepting students. His fame grew further when the influential statesman Meng Shizi, before his death, instructed his sons Meng Yizi and Nangong Jingxu to study rituals under Confucius. With Nangong Jingxu's recommendation, Duke Zhao of Lu even sent Confucius to the Zhou capital, Luoyi, to study the ritual and musical traditions of the Zhou dynasty. At the age of 35, Confucius witnessed the downfall of Duke Zhao, who was ousted by the three most powerful aristocratic clans of Lu, the Jisuan, Meng Sun, and Shu Sun families. Confucius then traveled to the state of Qi, where he met with Duke Jing and discussed his political ideals. While Duke Jing treated him with respect and considered employing him, the chancellor, Yang Ying, dismissed Confucius' ideas as impractical. As a result, Confucius returned to Lu and continued teaching, gradually attracting more disciples. By 501 BCE, Duke Ding of Lu appointed Confucius as the governor of Zhongju, in present-day Wenshan, Shandong. The following year, he was promoted to Minister of Works, Sikong, responsible for public projects, and then to Minister of Justice, Zixu. Before attending the Zhaoguan diplomatic conference with Qi, Duke Ding consulted Confucius. Confucius advised, "Qi has frequently invaded our borders. If they have invited us to a conference, we must be prepared militarily." He suggested that Lu bring troops as a precaution. Duke Ding agreed and dispatched 2 generals along with armed escorts to accompany Confucius to Zhaoguan. During the conference, Confucius skillfully handled diplomatic proceedings, securing an advantageous position for Lu. As a result, Duke Jing of Qi agreed to return 3 territories in Wenyang, southwest of present-day Tai'an, Shandong, that Qi had previously seized from Lu. However, a Qi minister named Li Chu believed that allowing Confucius to continue serving in Lu would be detrimental to Qi. He advised Duke Jing to send a gift of 80 singing and dancing women to Lu. Duke Jing accepted this advice, and when Duke Ding of Lu received the women, he became preoccupied with entertainment, neglecting state affairs. When Confucius attempted to advise him, the Duke deliberately avoided him. Frustrated and disillusioned, Confucius' disciples urged him, saying, "If our ruler refuses to govern properly, we should leave." Thus, Confucius resigned from his position and embarked on a journey across the feudal states, seeking an opportunity to implement his political ideals. However, at that time, the major states were engaged in wars for supremacy, while the smaller states struggled to survive annexation. Amidst this turmoil, Confucius' philosophy, advocating for a return to the ritual and musical traditions of early Zhou, found little support. He traveled to the states of Wei, Cao, Song, Zheng, Chen, Cai, and Chu, but none of these rulers adopted his ideas. On one occasion, while in the border region between Chen and Cai, King Zhao of Chu sent envoys to invite Confucius to his court. Fearing that Confucius' presence in Chu would threaten their own influence, the ministers of Chen and Cai dispatched troops to intercept him. Confucius and his disciples were surrounded, cut off from food supplies, and left to starve for days. Eventually, Chu forces arrived and rescued them. After wandering the states for 7 to 8 years without success, Confucius, now an aging man, decided to return to Lu. He shifted his focus from political reform to compiling and preserving classical texts and educating his students. In his later years, Confucius compiled and edited several important historical and literary works, including the Book of Songs, Shijing, the Book of Documents, Shangshu, and the Spring and Autumn Annals, Chuanqiu. The Book of Songs, Shijing, the earliest known anthology of Chinese poetry, containing 305 poems from the Western Zhou and Spring and Autumn periods. Many of these poems reflect the social life of the time and hold great significance in Chinese literary history. The Book of Documents, Shangshu, a collection of ancient historical records, regarded as one of the earliest history books in China. The Spring and Autumn Annals, Chuanqiu, a chronicle of major events from 722 to 481 BCE, based on the historical records of Lu. In 479 BCE, Confucius passed away. After his death, his disciples continued to spread his teachings, forming the foundation of the Confucian school of thought. Confucius' intellectual legacy had a profound influence on Chinese civilization. He is widely recognized as China's first great philosopher and educator, whose ideas shaped Chinese society for centuries.